Do you feel it? Your heart is pounding. Your palms are sweating. You just said yes to your dream job, a new partner, a chance to start over. And your body screams, run. You're not crazy. You're a survivor. At 5, you learned intimacy equals pain. Vulnerability equals danger. And love? Love came with the threat of disappearance. Now, 20 years later, your brain still thinks, if you're loved, you'll soon be abandoned. This isn't paranoia. It's a neural pathway laid down in childhood, like a well-worn path in the woods. You're not broken. You adapted. What if your perfect childhood was the trap? A quiet home. Nothing ever happened. Parents didn't yell. They just didn't hear. You cried. They said, it's okay. You got angry. They smiled. Don't be dramatic. And you learned to be silent, to hide your feelings behind a mask of everything's under control. Now you're successful, smart, in demand. But inside there's panic. They're going to find me out. This isn't a coincidence. It's imposter syndrome, and it's especially cruel to those whose emotions were erased in childhood under the guise of stability. You think, but I wasn't hurt like others. And that's where it gets interesting. Ignoring feelings is also trauma, not loud trauma, not with bruises, but deep, like a crack in the foundation. From the outside, the house stands. Inside, everything shakes with every step. Look at your hands. Do they tremble when someone says, I'm proud of you? Does your heart skip a beat when you're praised? This isn't weakness. It's your body remembering, if I show myself, I'll be rejected. But you're not in that house anymore. You're not that age. And the rules have changed. And yes, you can rewrite them. The brain is plastic. It learns. Even at 40, even at 60. You can learn to feel safe, not as an idea, but as warmth in your chest, as calm breathing, as a gaze that doesn't hide. You're not broken. You survived. Now, it's time to live. Imagine a kitchen, the smell of burnt milk, dim light. A toddler falls, not hurt, but the world suddenly tilted. He looks at you, his mom, eyes full of questions. His lip trembles. His hands reach out, but you turn away. Stop it. It's fine. He freezes. The cry catches in his throat. His heart beats like a bird in a fist. And in that moment, his brain receives a signal. My feelings are a nuisance, not a plea, not a cry for help. A nuisance. Do you feel it now? That tightening inside when someone tells you to calm down? It's not a coincidence. It's your 1-year-old brain still believing if I show fear, I'll be abandoned. Before 18 months, the brain doesn't learn. It copies. Every time an adult responds, the nervous system records the world is kind. Every time you're ignored, it erases that hope like a flawed frame. And only anxiety remains. Quiet, like background noise. But it controls everything. Who you choose, where you work, how you breathe in an embrace. You think, I'm just anxious. In reality, your anxiety center, like an alarm in an empty house, went off in childhood and hasn't been turned off since. Here's what therapists often don't tell you. Over 68% of adults with anxiety disorders carry in their bodies the echo of that very moment, when their cry went unanswered. Not because their parents were mean, but because no one taught them how to listen. And now you, in negotiations, on a date, in the quiet of the night, are still waiting. Will they hear me this time? But safety doesn't come from outside if it hasn't been built within. So the brain chooses survival, and survival demands freezing. You learn not to cry, not to get angry, not to ask. You smile when inside. It's ice, and it works. Until one day, the ice cracks. That's why you suddenly leave relationships where everything is good. That's why panic overwhelms you in a meeting where you're praised. Frozen emotions don't disappear. They wait for their moment. And when you weaken, they burst out like steam from an overheated boiler. Look at your hands. Do they clench when you feel you have to be strong? This isn't weakness. It's your inner child, still waiting. Maybe this time someone will come. Maybe this time they'll say, I see you. But now you're an adult. And you can go to him yourself. He's 6 years old. A cup falls. The clatter is sharp, like a scream. He cries. Not from pain, from fear. I broke it. And his father watches. His voice is ice with metal. Don't cry. You're a boy. The boy swallows his tears, smiles, and inside, something shuts down. Do you feel it now? That lump in your throat again when you're told to just relax? That's not you. That's the boy, still waiting for his pain to be named. Suppression isn't weakness. It's a survival hack. When a child learns, my feelings x rejection, the brain finds a bypass. It activates the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, like an emotion switch. You smile, you're silent, you control, and you get approval. But at what cost? You lose connection with yourself. fMRI scans don't lie in such people. The insula, the area that whispers, you're tired, you're hurting. That's enough. Is like it's dormant, and you don't hear it. Do you know this feeling? Successful, in demand. But inside, an emptiness, like after a storm. The higher you climb, the quieter you cry. And here's the paradox. The stronger you appear to the world, the more your inner child suffocates in a cage of shoulds. Burnout isn't fatigue. It's his scream. Studies are clear. Those who strive for perfect control have 40% higher rates of burnout. Not because they are weak, but because for decades they haven't cried, haven't gotten angry, haven't asked. Look at your shoulders. Are they tense even in the shower? That's not a habit. That's your body holding what you didn't allow yourself to express. Now, relationships. Do you think you choose rationally? No. You choose based on pain. You fall in love, not with a person, but with a chance to rewrite that 6-year-old moment. To be told this time, it's okay. I'm here. But until you go to that boy yourself, the story will repeat. With new faces, old tears, frozen emotions don't disappear. They become your shadow, and they lead you, not to life, but to survival. But you're not 6 anymore. You can turn on the light. You can say, I see you. And then the ice will begin to melt. Not in panic, but in warmth. She falls in love not with him, but with hope. with the chance that this time, silence can be melted by love. He doesn't respond to messages, yet her palms still sweat when a notification arrives. She cooks dinners, remembers how he drinks his coffee, forgives days of silence. Because deep down, a voice says, if I'm good enough, he'll stay. But the closer she gets, the further he pulls away. And one day she catches herself thinking, why am I here again? Do you feel this? It's not a failure. It's a pattern. The brain doesn't seek happiness. It seeks familiarity, even if it's pain. Especially if it's pain. Because familiarity means predictability, and predictability means survivability. If love in childhood only came through silence, through waiting, through trying to earn it, your nervous system memorized, this is what intimacy looks like. And now it scans partners like a threat scanner. This coldness, familiar. This averted gaze, familiar. This uncertainty, home. Do you think you're choosing love? In reality, you're choosing completion. Your brain sees in a new person a chance to say what wasn't said at 6, to get what wasn't received at 10. And so you fall in love, not with him, but with the possibility of rewriting the past. fMRI doesn't lie. When you look at a partner with traits of an emotionally unavailable parent, the same brain area lights up as when recalling a childhood wound. Past and present merge. You're not with him. You're back there, in the kitchen, in the dim light, with burnt milk and a lump in your throat. But sabotage doesn't stop at love. It infiltrates where you've already succeeded. A promotion, recognition, a dream you fought for years, and suddenly, rejection. Not because you're undeserving, but because being seen means being vulnerable. And vulnerability is a risk. And then your body decides for you. Better not to start than to hear, you're not enough. Again. Look at your hands. Do they tremble before an important call? Does your heart skip a beat when you're praised? This isn't fear of failure. It's fear of being seen. The real you. Because deep down, you still believe if you show who you are, you'll be rejected. But that's not true. It's an echo. And an echo can be silenced. Not by silence, but by a voice. Your voice. You're not crazy. You have a pattern, and a pattern can be rewritten. She's offered a promotion. Not just a position, a dream. The very one she sacrificed weekends, sleep and time with loved ones for. And at the moment she should have smiled, her body freezes. Her hands are icy. Her stomach feels like it's filled with lead. She writes a refusal, says, I'm not ready. And at night, she lies in the dark, clutching her pillow, hating herself for running away again. Do you feel this? It's not fear of not being able to handle it. It's fear of being seen. In childhood, for every good grade, she heard, so what? Are you a prodigy or something? For every victory, why wasn't it first place? More often, just silence. As if her success was a debt, not a joy. And her brain concluded, if I step forward, I won't be embraced. I'll be judged. And judgment is always a risk. Because after it comes, now prove you're worthy. Sabotage isn't weakness. It's protection. You're not afraid of success. You're afraid of being seen. Here's how it works. Your brain's anxiety center is like an alarm set to attention equals threat. When you're praised, promoted, noticed, it doesn't rejoice. It triggers panic. Get ready, it whispers. The test is about to begin. And your body chooses flight. Not because you can't, but because at 6 you learned love is given not for who you are, but for what you give. Success isn't freedom. It's a new cage. Do you think you sabotage out of insecurity? No. You sabotage because you remember the higher you fly, the harder you fall when they stop loving you for your results. But here's the paradox. That very child you left behind in the past, he doesn't want you to fail. He wants you to finally say, you are enough, just because you exist. Look at your hands. Do they still tremble at the thought of being noticed? This isn't fear, it's hope. Hope that this time, it's unconditional. Now imagine, you're standing in front of a mirror, not as an adult who should, but as that very child who waited for approval. And you tell him, I see you. You don't have to be perfect. You can just be. This is where true success begins. Not in a position, not in recognition, but in ceasing to run from yourself. Imagine a 6-year-old boy stands in the living room doorway. In his hand, a drawing, full of hearts, glitter, pastel strokes. He spent all day on it, got his fingers messy, glued foil to make it shine. Mom is on the couch, phone in hand, brows furrowed, lips tight. He takes a step, another. The squeak of sneakers on the linoleum, loud as a gunshot in the silence. He opens his mouth, but Mom gets up, walks past, doesn't see, doesn't hear. Leaves behind the smell of coffee and irritation. The drawing falls. The boy picks it up, folds it in half, hides it in his pocket. Inside, emptiness. Not just pain, not resentment, but an emotional vacuum. Silence where a voice should have been. He never said, "You don't see me." And since then, that unspoken word has lived in you, not as a memory, but as a voice. Do you feel this? How something whispers inside, "Don't bother. You're too much. Just be quieter." That's not your voice. It's a recording. The voice of a tired adult who didn't know how to accept your joy. Your brain, trying to protect you from rejection, copied it, like a defense program. And now you listen to it every time you want to say, "I need." Does this sound familiar? You have success. You have love. But inside, still, I don't deserve it. This isn't conscience. It's an echo. And here's where it gets interesting. The inner critic isn't an enemy. It's an exhausted protector who still thinks the world is dangerous. It doesn't know that you're an adult now, that you're safe, that you can speak, and you'll be heard. But you don't have to believe that recording. You don't have to protect someone who didn't protect you. Especially when modern neuroscience proves your anxiety center, like an alarm, can be rewired. Not by erasing the past, but by adding something new to it. I see you. Look at your hands. Are they still holding that folded drawing? Open your palm, smooth the paper, and say aloud, not to your mom, not to the world, but to yourself, I am important. I see you. You are enough. This isn't a metaphor. It's a re-recording. And it doesn't start tomorrow. It starts now, in this silence, where finally someone has responded. She's sitting in a meeting. Everything is going well. Her idea is accepted. Colleagues nod. But suddenly, click. Her chest tightens. Her breath catches. Her hands tremble under the table. She's 5 years old. The school hallway. Laughter behind her back. Her voice is gone. This isn't a memory. It's a bodily hack from the past. The brain substituted the present with a threat that happened 20 years ago. Do you feel this? How the world shrinks to a single point, where you're small and defenseless again. This isn't weakness. It's a neural trap. In moments of childhood stress, the brain doesn't have time to process fear logically. It throws it into the amygdala, the anxiety center, like an alarm without a switch. There, the memory remains not as words, but as sensations, cold in the stomach, dry mouth, trembling fingers. And when a similar context appears in adulthood, even just attention, the brain activates the same program. fMRI scans show, in such people, the reaction is triggered 10 times faster and lasts longer. But this isn't a sentence. It's a map. And you can find your way back. You can say aloud, I feel the fabric of the chair under my palms. Or, I am here. I am 35. I am safe. This isn't a mantra. It's a neural key. It activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that knows now is not then. And this physically extinguishes panic. And here's where it gets interesting. Research from the 2000s proved neuroplasticity has no expiration date. Even at 60, the brain creates new connections. It learns. It rewrites. Therapy, breathing, inner dialogue. All of this isn't self-improvement. It's literally brain restructuring, like a firmware update. And after just 6 weeks of practice, flashbacks are reduced by 75%. Not because you became stronger, but because your brain finally heard, you are safe. Look at your hands. Do they still tremble with fear of being noticed? This isn't weakness. It's a signal. A signal from that very child who waited for someone to say, I'm with you. And now, you are that someone. Neuroplasticity has no expiration date. And healing doesn't begin with struggle. It begins with an invitation. Come here. You're home. She sits in the therapist's office, hands on her lap, palms slightly damp. Her voice trembles like a string stretched to its limit. I want to try to talk to him, she says. The therapist nods. To whom? To the 6-year-old, the one who's still afraid he'll be abandoned if he asks for too much. She closes her eyes, takes a deep breath, slowly, intentionally. And in the silence, she whispers, Hi. I know you're there. I see you. You're not alone. In that moment, for the first time in 30 years, she feels no shame. She feels connection, as if two parts have finally met. Her fingers clench, as if embracing someone invisible. And inside, not emptiness, but a warm, trembling presence. Do you feel this? How something in your chest responds when you tell yourself, I'm with you. This isn't imagination. It's the beginning of a dialogue that changes everything. Integrating the inner child isn't a metaphor. It's a therapeutic process where you stop fighting with yourself. Instead of stop whining, it's, of course you're scared. You were abandoned. Instead of don't be dramatic, it's you have the right to want love. And then the energy you spent on suppression is released. You build a career not out of fear, but out of desire. You choose a partner not out of pain, but out of wholeness. And here are the numbers. Therapists rarely mention. Those who master this dialogue are 3.2 times more likely to maintain healthy relationships and 2.8 times less likely to sabotage promotions. This isn't luck. It's rewriting the pattern. But the most amazing thing is in the brain. When you start caring for someone you once shamed, fMRI scans show anxiety center activity drops within 6 weeks. And the self-compassion area, the insula, lights up 42% brighter. The body receives the signal, now I have a protector. This isn't a metaphor. It's a neural reboot. Do you think safety comes from others? No. It begins when you become the one who responds. When you say, I see you, and you mean yourself. Healing isn't magic. It's a daily practice. Like breathing, like stepping, like looking in the mirror without judgment. You don't go back to the past to suffer. You go back to retrieve the one you left behind. And when you take his hand, not as a victim, but as an ally, you gain not only the past, you gain a future built not on fear, but on trust in yourself. Look at your hands. Are they still holding that child? Don't let go. He is your key. Remember the one who stood at the door with a drawing in his hands. The one whose heart skipped a beat when Mom walked past. He didn't disappear. He's still inside you. And today, for the first time, he's not hiding. Do you feel this? How something in your chest expands when you stop running from your own breath. This isn't a miracle. It's the system finally switching from survival mode to life. Everything we've discussed, suppression, sabotage, choosing partners based on pain, these aren't separate glitches. It is one algorithm, launched when you were less than 18 months old, when your brain learned connection equals silence, love equals condition, presence equals threat. And you adapted. You froze your feelings. You became convenient. And it saved you. But now you don't depend on those who couldn't listen. You are an adult, and you have a choice. Imagine, he's standing at the door again. That same boy, still with the drawing. But now you don't wait for Mom to notice. You approach him yourself. You take his hand, and you say, "Show me." He looks, not with hope, but with cautious trust. And you don't look away. You don't praise. You don't correct. You just see. In that moment, the alarm in your brain goes off. The amygdala calms down. The prefrontal cortex turns on the light. And safety, not as an external reward, but as an internal state, begins to grow. Not because the world became kinder, but because you finally became a home for yourself. Trauma is not your fault. You didn't choose who raised you. You're not to blame for learning to be silent to avoid abandonment. But healing is your power, not a duty, not a feat, but a right. The right to go back for the one you left in the past. The right to say, I'm taking you. We're going home. Do you think this is poetry? No. This is neurobiology. You are not a victim. You are an architect. And every time you place your hand on your chest and whisper, I'm with you, you're rebuilding neural pathways. You're creating a new reality, not from pain, but from presence. Does this feeling resonate with you? When you finally stop pretending and just exist? This isn't the end of the journey. This is the beginning of a real life. And now, it's your turn. Close your eyes for 3 seconds. Breathe in and ask, what do you need to feel safe? Don't think, just listen. The answer will come as warmth in your stomach, as a tear, as a word you were always afraid to say. Remember it. Because healing doesn't begin with grand promises. It begins with a quiet yes to the one you've ignored for so long. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to be perfect. You are simply here. And that is enough. Home.